Hello, good people of the internet. I was asked by someone to make a little better video of my very small pressure washing setup. This is what I do business with all the time, and so far it has worked out really good. A rather old and worn Dodge Dakota pickup truck that still runs good, and a two-wheel drive, long bed. I love the long bed. It's got a 7-foot long bed. But this is what Valley Soft Wash packs into a very small truck. I've got it set up. I was working today, so this is in operational condition. As we look in here, I've got my water comes into the system, goes through this particulate filter, and then it goes into a Hudson float valve into my 35-gallon buffer tank that sits back here in the center front. As we come out, I've got 150 foot of garden hose to fill my buffer tank. I've got a set of cutoffs right there so that I can cut off the Hudson float valve, or I can cut off my hand washing hose that's in the back. I'm kind of a fan of cutoff valves, so in case you need to disconnect something or you want to use something in a funny way or run antifreeze through it backwards, you can do that with lots of cutoffs. Of course, in this truck, space is of the utmost, so everything has its place. My boots to keep my toesies dry. I've got 175 feet of hose with a ball valve on an 18-inch hose reel. That's for both of my pressure washers. I've got super swivel here. I did have some dirt get in the original swivel, and it just locked it up. I mean, just locked it up. I cleaned it, took it apart. Still didn't work. So got the super swivel that has the grease fitting on it, and so far this thing has been a Cadillac, and I think I'm going to get quite a few years out of this guy. This is where I put my downstream injector for when I'm downstreaming. This is the whip line that comes from my pressure washers, and we'll see the other end of this in just a minute. I built a little deck here, and I've got a hose reel sitting on it, plus my soft wash pump, 5 gallon a minute. North Star electric pump. So far it has run great. Only issue I've had is it tends to go through fuses every now and then, and I've got it wired with big 10 gauge wire to the factory wiring and a 20 amp fuse, and still every now and then it will draw down a fuse, so I just keep a bunch of fuses and try to let it cool off a little bit now and then. So far so good. Little belt holder for some tips for my soft wash setup. Of course, this is my little soft wash wand that I made myself. Very easy, no big deal. I've got a garden hose fitting here so that I can use a Gilmore spray handle. I've got a 7-foot long one of these that I designed so I can reach 3 stories with the thing. So I thought it'd be good just to have a garden hose fitting in this area. I've got 200 feet of Flexzilla 1/2-inch air hose with PVC internal lining. Everybody said I can use it, and it seems to work fine. Like it. It's very inexpensive. You can buy it in 250-foot rolls, not a big deal. We roll out into the back. The one thing I don't have in this truck at the moment, I'm hopefully going to change it around, is an onboard SH tank. I still use these 15-gallon drums, and they tend to work out good because you can custom mix stuff. Like if you wanted to do a roof, you can do half bleach and then fill up the rest with water when you get where you're going, and end up with a mix there. If you don't have a mixing valve, I've got a mixing valve now, so I actually run pretty much all SH in these barrels. And my truck, I left a little space. I can actually carry 3 barrels, so technically I could carry 45 gallons of SH, which would be, God knows, more than I'd ever touch on one job, but the option is there. This is my downstream mixing bucket with my downstream injector pickup tube. If I'm working off of the pressure washers, I can of course use the downstream injector. This tube here is the buffer tank dump drain, and it just pulls out of this rubber Fernco coupling when you're on the highway, and you can put it away and close the doors. And then when I get to a job site, I just stick it in there, and I can fill up a bucket in 5 or 10 seconds. I can fill up a 5-gallon bucket with this, and there is a ball valve hiding right up in there that goes all the way around here and all the way up there to the bottom of my 35-gallon tank. This pipe is also where my suction tube for both of my pressure washers comes off, so they feed off of here. They pull completely off the buffer tank. Deep cycle battery for the soft wash pump. Here's the kind of the back side of the reels. There's the pump sitting on the deck there. I actually have a small Harbor Freight solar panel up here that works whenever the sun's out, just to add a little trickle charge. I usually do put the deep cycle on a overnight charge if I've been using the pump a lot. In here, I've got a 14-foot pole for gutter brushing. I've also got an 18-foot pressure washer extension wand. I've never used it, actually. I bought it thinking I would need it. And with 2-story soap and rinse nozzles so far, I've been able to do 3.5, almost 4 stories with no problem and have not needed this wand yet. But nice to know it's there. Of course, a belt clip of fittings for my pressure washers, so they're ready to go. My small surface cleaners for residential work are under there. I've got a bigger 18-inch that I carry for a commercial job, a couple of spray wands. There's a short spray wand in this storage box, a bunch of gutter brushes, miscellaneous things, hornet spray, bug spray, sunblock, all kinds of stuff. In front of this box is another box that has 50 feet of pressure washing hose, 100 feet of garden hose. It's got some other odds and ends. I think an extra pair of tennis shoes is up there, extra pair of socks. Never can have too many of those. On this side, in front of these guys, there's another one of those tubs, and I actually have a set of chest waders. So if you get a really cold and nasty day, you can put those waders on and a rain jacket, and I've pressure washed in the middle of a pouring downpour, and finished up a project, and I was fine. I was comfortable. Just put my tunes in my ears and ignore the water beating on the back of your hood and just keep on getting it. This is a set of in and out hoses I designed with another pickup tube, and I use these as a transfer pump. Sometimes when I'm using these barrels, I'll transfer bleach from one barrel to another, or fill something up or empty something out. And I allowed, on my blend manifold, which I'll talk about in a second, I connected everything with these quick connectors, and this is my pump output that goes to the hose reel. I can disconnect that and connect it to one of these hoses and have an output. And this is an input down here that connects to the other pickup tube that I can stick in anything I want. And this comes right up here and ends up going into my blend manifold. So when I want to use this as a transfer pump, I close this valve, close that valve, close that valve, open that valve, and now I've got a clean just flow through the manifold to the pump for transferring any kind of chemicals or liquids I need to. And when I'm done, I just close this valve, unhook the tube down there, and let it hang in the air. There's nothing in it, no problem, doesn't bother a thing. This is a blend manifold that I kind of built after seeing other things on the internet and being halfway handy with plumbing and fittings my whole life. Really not complicated. Anybody can do this. This is not rocket science. You need to have a check valve on your water, and a check valve on your SH, and a check valve on your soap so that nothing can cross-pollinate. In this one, I just did a simple ball valve here. It's a union style valve. It's a little bulky, but it allows you to open it up and clean it, or put new O-rings in it if you needed to. And this goes straight down to a connection on that pipe there, which goes to the buffer tank. So my manifold and my soft wash draws off of this 35-gallon buffer tank. This is the SH pickup line, and it wiggles around to this portable pickup tube. Since I don't have a dedicated tank, I've got it running to this little Stinger pickup tube. And so once you bleed a little air out of that, it runs just fine. I put a 3-way valve here, so when I'm done washing, it's kind of hard to see, there's another line here that goes to the buffer tank line for clean water. And when I'm done washing, I just take this valve and move it over here, and now I've got clean water going through my GF metering valve and my check valve so that they can stay totally bleach free when I'm not working. These are the GF metering valves, and they're pretty cool. A little expensive. I got this one through a company called Go Vets, and I found it for $89 with free shipping. So that was an awesome deal. It took about 3 weeks to get it. Wasn't the fastest thing in the world, but it's pretty cool. This allows you to open it fully, and you could run 6% bleach if you had something really nasty, pre-treating an ugly driveway or post-treating. You could do a really heavy roof concentration with it. You turn it halfway, and you've got basically a 3% mix, which is good for pretty much anything. Turn it another quarter, and you get about a 1.5% mix. Great for house washing. So if you get a dirty house, you can add a little bit. And if you get a house that's not too bad, you can save a little SH and cut it back a little. It depends on if the dirt's coming off the house, that's where you want it. There's no magic to this. You spray it on a conservative setting. Wait 5 to 7, 8 minutes at the most, and if the mold, mildew, and algae isn't starting to melt off the house, add a little bit. Spray it again, wait 5 or 6, 7 minutes. If it's melting off the house, you're done. That's as good as you want to be. Not hard to figure out. Just always start with less, and then you don't burn up plants or cause any trouble. And if you need it, you can always add more. This one is my soap line. Of course, I've got a little check valve there. That's an automotive style fuel line check valve because I needed 3/8 size hose, and I didn't want anything real big there. Coming down, this is just a simple bleach resistant 3/8 stopcock. And soap is not so critical that you need a metering valve for it. If you don't want any, you turn it like that. If you want just a little bit, or if you want full blast soap, depending on how you've mixed it, how concentrated is your mix that you've got in your tank. That's up to you. You could probably run straight surfactant in this and be okay. But I run it mixed at a modest amount, so I usually use it at about halfway. And that seems to be a good mixture for me. And this comes down and goes under here to a 5-gallon tank with a pickup tube in it. I got these pre-made cap and pickup tube assemblies so that I can change buckets. If I'm doing something like some commercial flat work and I want a degreaser, I can go ahead and set up one of these as a pretty healthy and strong degreaser, because I really don't need much surfactant in a case like that. And all I got to do is just pull this tub out and unscrew this top and stick this tube in the other bucket, and I'm off with a different surfactant. You can actually have 2 in there. And my outdoor kitty decided to join our video. Say hi, Sylvester. How you doing, buddy? You inspecting my truck? It's always good to get a CAT scan now and then, make sure everything's safe with this coronavirus stuff going around. So I'm in the middle of a CAT scan. Let's see, we get into the truck. This is about how I work out of the truck too. There's not a lot missing right now. I was out working this morning. I've got my 4-gallon a minute machine with a Predator engine from Harbor Freight. Can't beat the price. It's not a Honda. I don't expect it to last 20 years, but I got a 2-year warranty. Anything happens, I unbolt it, walk in the store, and they hand me a new one. And for $289, can't beat it. And so far it has run like a champ. This is my 2nd season fiddling around with it. I don't use it too much. This is mostly just for flat work. Is this one if I get some dirty driveway. I used it for a driveway yesterday. But I tend to not use it any more than I need to, just because I'm used to my other machine and it's a little safer and easier on things. So we'll cruise around here. This has got a 4-gallon a minute, 4,000 psi general pump on it. Of course, it's plumbed into the buffer tank. This is my cat's walking around. This is my 2,500 psi 3-gallon a minute. And this is what I do most of my work with. I do pretty much all my downstreaming of houses with it. Light pressure washing, decks and things like that. 2,500 psi is not enough really to tear stuff up if you're easy with the tips and pay attention. It's also tied into the buffer tank. Again, I'm kind of crazy with putting cutoffs everywhere, so I can isolate this one from the buffer tank. There's a valve just like this on the 4-gallon machine hiding back here that I can isolate that machine with it. Don't know why, but just sounded like a good idea. Here's the whip that goes to the pressure wheel. And the way I figure out what machine is, whatever machine, I go right to this quick connect, put the connect in, I'm right to the hose reel, done. Nothing fancy, keep it simple. When I run the 4-gallon machine, I just uncouple it here and just reach around here and stick it right into there. And then I'm running the hose reel off the 4-gallon machine. Takes me just a second. I work alone, so I'm never going to run 2 machines at one time. Again, small buffer tank, so I really don't know if I could run both. I guess I could. Never tried. Both machines are recirculating through the buffer tank. If you have the ability to do that with the little line that comes off of your pressure regulator, do it. It saves your pumps. You can put the pump down. Customer comes out and says, "Hey, how you doing?" You can just put the pump down and chit chat for 10 minutes while your machine is just running like crazy, and you'll come back out and this pump will be cold to the touch. It'll have condensation. There'll be condensation right here on the pistons and valve covers on a hot day, and I've had the gun off for 5 or 6 minutes. You do that without one of these big buffer tanks where you can cycle the water through it, and this thing will be hot as heck. But my 3-gallon machine connects right there to that little import, and my 4-gallon a minute machine dumps back into the buffer tank there. Of course, the Hudson valve is in the middle. This is just an air vent. When I first set this up, I had just a little bit of trouble with air getting in these suction lines, so I just made a place for the air to go. The lowest line you see down there is coming from the tank, and it goes to a T, and it continues on to the 3-gallon machine right over here. Then I put a second T, and the upper line right there goes to the input of the 4-gallon machine. There's a good shot of the valve and everything. And then this end of the T, I just made an air gap. It gives a place for the air to get out of this thing. Highest air always wants to go to the highest point. So I just picked the highest point of this plumbing and ran it up there, and it just dead ends. There's just a cap with a couple of little holes drilled in it at the other end of this thing. It's kind of hard to spot. But I just put a little fitting with a little cap so it looks halfway decent, keep the dirt out of it. But, the water level is right here. The water level's right here, which is right where the water level in the tank is, right here. So, it'll find the level of the tank. But it just gives a place for the air to get out of, which is seems to work pretty well. My little plethora of chemicals and goodies. Always have everybody's got their little tricks. This stuff, bleach white tire cleaner, does it take the black streaks off of gutters in a flat second. Spray it on dry, wipe it off, and then rinse it. Don't let it dry up there. You got to do it in small pieces up on a ladder. But it will take any black streaks off of white aluminum stuff and make them disappear. Another secret trick, this little guy from Home Depot, I don't know, $4 a bottle, something like that. The little white rubber strips around a garage door, sometimes I have trouble getting the mold and mildew out of those. You spray this stuff on it and they come up gleaming white, brand new, just like they were built yesterday. Matter of fact, I've got one right here. This rubber stripe right here is 18 years old, and I haven't washed it for probably 2 years, and it was black, nasty, and dirty, and I cleaned it, and poof, it's gone. But that's it. That's your little trip for the trade. The one thing somebody asked me was, how do I put gas in my machines? These little battery-powered pumps from Harbor Freight, I've seen them at other stores. It's just got a couple of D batteries in it. You stick this end in a gas can, and you hold this end over your filler caps up in an odd place like in this truck where I've got trouble doing it. And you just stick it in there like that, and you can fill it right up without having to try and get a gas can up in here, because this is a little inconvenient with the roof of my topper on here. And the pumps are sitting up kind of high on this deck, but I just hold that tube and fill them right up, and I set the gas can, right here. It sits right here on this little landing, and I fill them up. No big deal. Keep it easy, nice and simple. But there's the operational side of my truck. This is Like I say, that can with some bleach in it sits right there. And if I need to, I can actually fit three 15-gallon jugs there if I really had to. But this just gives me a little room to put the whatever you need today, or the extra thing, or a window washing bucket, or a place to sit down and change your shoes into your boots. Just gives you a little bit of space. But for a small truck, this is how I get a lot of stuff done. And it's tight, but I work alone, and I've got just everything I could ever need or want in here. And of course, you know, the fun thing with soft wash pumps is they're always ready to go. You got water, you got game. And like I said, this is just a little 5-gallon pump, and it does really well. I'm pretty impressed with it. I can with this pump and this little holder, I can comfortably spray 1 story, 2 stories. Peak is a little over 3 stories, and I can get within 4 feet of that point with that little short wand and those little fittings that I've got in that belt holder. The 7-foot extension wand, I go about 2 feet over that peak, holding that 7-foot wand up. But it's a little inconvenient with the 7-foot wand, but it's just for the places you just can't get to. And if you wanted, you could even make a longer one. I just have one that fits in my truck. Well, so there we go. There's the Valley Soft Wash Play Toys. And of course, we all have the garage full of junk. Bye, see ya. Take care. Be well.